Production support for Local Roots provided by
Gulf winds blow through canopy roads all the way to Thomasville. The maiden names written on the land echo through the red clay hills, where the scent of longleaf floated pine reach up on past that Georgia line. Stroll through Tallahassee town or southern Appalachia bound. Take the local routes and journey down the roads we call our home.
Coming up on WFSU Public Media's Local Roots.
We get an up-close introduction to the eastern diamondback rattler.
Ah! Oh! Oh! I love to do that with groups.
And we meet the local man who's written a new book about these creatures. And we preview the annual reenactment at the Natural Bridge Battlefield State Park.
Local Roots is next on WFSU.
Take the local routes and journey down the roads we call our home.
Welcome to Local Roots. I'm Suzanne Smith with WFSU Public Media, and today I'm at the eastern edge of the Apalachicola National Forest near Woodville Highway. There are many animals that live in this forest, including a variety of reptiles. Bruce Means has spent over 40 years studying North America's most venomous snake, the eastern diamondback rattler. He's collected that research, along with the stories behind it, into a new book called Diamonds in the Rough. WFSU's Rob Diaz de Villegas spent some time with Dr. Means to learn more about this fascinating animal.
All life forms should have the same right to exist within their natural capacities to survive. I wouldn't want to live in a world without trees and frogs and birds and goldfish and lady beetles and rattlesnakes. That whole biology of this animal is fascinating, and after 40 years, I finally published all the work that I've done on this animal in a book I'm very proud of called Diamonds in the Rough.
We're in the Apalachicola National Forest with Bruce Means and an iconic animal of the longleaf pine ecosystem. The story of Bruce and his favorite animal begins miles north of here.
I started studying these animals in 1976, formally, when I was at Tall Timbers Research Station. I got into the scientific literature and discovered there was almost nothing known about this fabulous animal's biology. So up there I had a large acreage where the rattlesnakes seemed to be abundant. So I put radio transmitters in them. That led to many years of basically appreciating through their life history the wonderful things that they do and are all about. Normally they lie coiled in nature and are very well camouflaged in the grass and other herbaceous litter that they live in. They're hidden and you're in nature and you almost never know they're close by. When you frighten one by coming upon it as I have here, and it goes from being very complacent and hiding into its Mr. Hyde transformation. And so they go into a coil, they rattle, they flatten themselves, and they will strike if you get close enough.
The forest hides a lot of life you'd never see unless you looked for it.
I think there's a scorpion here. Where'd he go? One in there somewhere. There he is. See a little scorpion? If you're doing as I do, you like to look into tortoise burrows to see if there's a tortoise or a rattlesnake or one of many other animals that live in there. At this time of year, you have to be very careful because rattlesnakes will come up and they'll coil up in a clump of vegetation right near the burrow to warm up, but stay close to the burrow.
Gopher tortoise burrows are an important shelter for many animals.
The average burrow in a sandhill habitat like this is about 25 feet long. So I'm going to step that off so you have an idea of how big that is. This is about 25 feet.
Other important shelters are less obvious.
Haha, here's what I'm talking about. You have no idea what a fabulous story this sort of a stump is. This is a longleaf pine that was weakened and thrown by the wind. Fires and animals have worked their way down into the ground along this softer sapwood. Now look at this. Look how far I can get in there. I can go way down in there and really soften. Ah! Oh! Oh! I love to do that with groups. In studies I did using radio telemetry with the eastern diamondback, it turns out this kind of habitat is far more important for the biology of a site like this, a longleaf pine community, than the tortoise burrow refugium is.
The eastern diamondback makes its home in the longleaf ecosystem because there are so many species of animal here for it to eat. Those plant-eating animals are here for a similar reason.
The herbaceous ground cover is really fantastic, and in a 2.5 acre block, say what's called a hectare, you can get up to 150 species of plants. So this is one of our nation's most important environments.
Longleaf forests only cover about 2% of their historic range. However, our area is a stronghold for this biodiverse, fire-dependent habitat.
I'm lucky to have lived in Tallahassee for more than half a century, and part of the reason I've stayed here all these years is because of this national forest. And then St. Mark's Wildlife Refuge and other blocks of publicly owned lands. Just think about this. It's in an environment in which a species has evolved and to which it is best adapted that you will be able to learn anything about the basic ecology of those species, whether it be the eastern diamondback, the wiregrass, the turkey oak, or the longleaf pine.
That's too much fun.
If you try to study an animal or a plant in a human-created environment, you're not going to learn everything about that animal's basic biology. So habitats like this, let alone their beauty and all kinds of other wonderful things about them, it's their value to our knowledge and understanding of nature, and also they're a repository of the biodiversity that once was.
In North Florida, these habitats and their residents are only a short drive away. For WFSU, I'm Rob Diaz de Villegas.
Head over to WFSU Ecology blog for more on Bruce Means, the eastern diamondback, and the longleaf habitat. Plus, Tom Flanagan with WFSU FM also talked with Bruce Mean recently. Check out that story online at news.wfsu.org. We're not done with the Means family or the creatures of the Apalachicola National Forest just yet, but we are moving from reptile to amphibian. The striped newt disappeared from the wetlands of this forest during a long drought. Now, Ryan and Rebecca Means, along with their daughter and some others, are looking to bring it back. WFSU producer Rob Diaz de Villegas brought his own family down to the Munson Sandhill region of the forest to learn more.
Oh, this is the moment I love the most in this project. The release of newts back into a wetland.
These endangered striped newts are resting in the palms of my 5-year-old son's hands. Max is joining a group of kids to help the Coastal Plains Institute, a family operation, reintroduce this species to the Munson Sandhills region of the Apalachicola National Forest. This part of the forest is well known to trail users of all kinds.
How you doing?
Ryan Means never wastes an opportunity to educate the public.
They live most of their lives in the uplands as terrestrial salamanders, eating insects, eating worms, eating whatever they can shove down their gullet. And then when the proper season and the proper rain occurs, they get frisky and they get ready to return to their natal wetland. They'll go down there and party and pair up and lay eggs.
This pond is an ephemeral wetland. Its water level rises and falls with the fullness of the aquifer underneath it. Not long ago, this natural cycle was disrupted.
We have been very recently here in the Tallahassee area in a long droughty period that lasted nearly 20 years. Some might argue that we're still in it. A drought has a consequence in that area wetlands would be dry for a lot more of the time than they normally would be. We believe that ties into the potential local extinction of the striped newt because there have been fewer and fewer opportunities for things like striped newts to breed in these wetlands.
Repatriating the newts is no simple process.
Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens has produced these newts, and they're at the ripe age to now release back into one of our selected recipient wetlands. Every one of them has a unique mark on its belly. Through mark recapture, we'll be able to tell a great deal about the life histories of these newts.
Before they're marked, they're put in the dream potion.
Total length is 67. 1.3 grams.
The tagging is done by Florida Fish and Wildlife's Pearson Hill. Several years ago, Pearson dyed his own knuckles.
So this one's a red 1, an orange 2, and a blue 3, and a red 4. So we'll wait till they regain their consciousness and they'll go home with the rest of them.
Another tool helps them keep track of newts as they leave and return to the pond.
Anything that is small and walks along the ground and has trouble climbing can now run into the fence, boom, and wonder why there's a barrier there. That thing will walk along the edge of the fence and eventually go plop right into a bucket.
Just a mail for you, and you may go.
You are now going to release these newts back into their wetland. Look at that. I'll tell you what, there's a predator nearby. Look. Oh, honey. Oh, that's perfect. Look at that. It was January. We released approximately 123 adult striped newts here in the Apalachicola National Forest. It's April now, and we've been in place with our drift fences here trying to measure and monitor what those newts have been doing in the wetland.
Today, Ryan has some help on the fences.
Today we had a middle school class from Cobb Middle School come down and join us. This one is called Asclepias humistrata. It's a sandhills milkweed. It was a wonderful time. We've been doing this for a couple of years now for Cobb.
On the way to the pond, the class gets to know the longleaf ecosystem where striped newts spend most of their time. At this white-banded tree, they learn of another species of interest.
It's called the red cockaded woodpecker. That woodpecker is a resident of this longleaf pine forest.
So that's why it's marked.
And it happens to be a federally endangered species, okay?
Lacking mature longleaf pine in which to make cavities, the woodpeckers rely on artificial boxes. Other species, like this great crested flycatcher, find them pretty useful as well.
It's awesome to have you guys here, and so I want you to experience today an ongoing scientific conservation project.
Oh my god.
It's a centipede. Excuse me, Ron.
The smallest toad in North America. It's called the oak toad. And it's so called because its body kind of looks like the color of an oak tree.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Outstanding work, buddy. We're targeting striped newts, of course, with this fence, but we capture well over 100 species of invertebrates, vertebrates, anything that's moving terrestrially along the ground. It offers amazing opportunities for education, naturalist activities, learning area species. Ornate chorus frog that has lost its tail already.
The kids, they get off the bus and they're like, we're going out in the woods. Are there bears? Are there lions? And by the end of the field trip, they're running through the woods. They're eating smilax tips. They're getting wet in the wetlands.
Yep. Oh,
and
you know
they
it.
love amphibians by the time it's over. So
That may be the greatest part of this project.
They didn't find any newts today, but that's okay. After 6 years of the project, Ryan and Rebecca have evidence that previous year's newts are returning to breed. There's still a long road to a sustainable striped newt population. Until then, the Coastal Plains Institute will be looking to continue their repatriation efforts, and they'll do so with the help of partners, friends, and a new generation of conservationists. For WFSU, I'm Rob Diaz de Villegas.
As always, there's more on this story at the WFSU Ecology blog. Explore the blog and learn more about the other animals of the longleaf pine ecosystem, such as the red cockaded woodpeckers and gopher tortoises. Not too far from where we are right now is the Natural Bridge Battlefield Historic State Park. That's where Confederate and Union troops fought against each other in the final weeks of the Civil War. On March 4th and 5th of this year, the annual reenactment battle will take place. I had a chance a few years ago to take a special tour of that area.
The Battle of Natural Bridge. It was so close to Tallahassee that people living on the outskirts of the city reported hearing sounds of battle. Each March, the Natural Bridge Historical Society, Inc. brings together Union and Confederate reenactors and invites the public to watch, learn, and explore history.
There's one gun on a map would have been right in this position within a few feet or few yards of right here.
Mark Rominger is past president of the Natural Bridge Historical Society.
Our whole mission is to protect and preserve this historical site and assist the state with the interpretation of the site.
In a way, there are two locations. There's the part you can easily check out any time of the year. It has monuments, signs, picnic areas, protective barricades called breastworks, and the St. Marks River. And there's another area that's currently only open to the public during the reenactment days.
For years, the reenactment was done right where you are. We had the U.S. troops come up the road from out of sight, cross here, and come up this field and attack up this ridge, because it's the only land we controlled. Since the Rakestraw property was acquired by the state a few years ago, we're now doing the bulk of the reenactment behind the house on this back field. It's a larger, better field to do the reenactment. It gives the public a place. They have more room safely to observe it, and it's also part of the battlefield. It's just a better area than this small, compact area here. See that little bit of an earthwork running right along there? See just in there about 20 yards? That's where the Confederate line would have run. This would not have been wooded like this in the day. When we did the archaeological study right here in front of you in this little area right here between these trees, we found a number of mini balls from rifles. Not only is it a battlefield, during the archaeological survey they found Paleolithic Indian activity, which is the earliest time period in Florida.
The story of the battle partly begins before any human being lived here at all, with a unique aspect of the St. Marks River.
The river goes underground into the limestone, and you have dry land between these karsts where you can cross, and it was called the Natural Bridge.
The quest to find a place to cross the St. Marks River is what brought the battle to this spot.
It's almost like a race to Natural Bridge, and the Confederates won the race to Natural Bridge and was set up and fortified by the time the Union forces tried to come across.
Jarvis Rozier Sr. is also a reenactor who takes part in the Natural Bridge battle reenactment. He works to educate people about the role of the United States colored troops in the Civil War, including the ones in this battle.
There were two companies, the 2nd and the 99th United States Colored Troops, and also the 2nd Florida Cavalry. A lot of people in the area did not know the makeup of the battle, did not know that the United States Colored Troops actually fought during that battle.
This battle really piques my curiosity, because most battles in war, like in Virginia, are a bunch of white male infantry from either army fighting each other. In this battle, you've got United States colored troops, or the bulk of the U.S. infantry. You've got cavalry, who are Floridians, who have sided with the North, fighting on that side. You have cavalry from the South. You've got gray-haired older men from Quincy, the Gadsden Grays.
Gadsden Militia!
You've got the cadets from the West Florida Seminary. And you got Navy men running the guns.
The battle at Natural Bridge started before sunrise on March 6, 1865. At least 3 times the Union tried to cross, but each time they were driven back by heavy fire.
but they weren't able to get across, and there was great casualties. Over the 148 casualties that happened with the Union forces, 100 of those were United States colored troops.
On the Confederate side, there were 26 hurt in the fighting, and only 3 of those died. The South had won the Battle of Natural Bridge, but lost the war a few weeks later. And the Union soldiers who had retreated to their ships ended up occupying post-war Tallahassee. All those years ago, folks living in Tallahassee could only hear the battle and wait for word. Today, everyone can hear, see, and discover what happened that day for themselves. All they have to do is head down Woodville Highway and make a left at Natural Bridge Road on the first weekend in March.
For more information on this weekend's reenactment, go to the website on your screen. One of the great things about technology is that you can use it almost anywhere, including the edge of the Apalachicola National Forest. But not everyone knows how to create the apps, programs, and games we all enjoy. WFSU is looking to change that. With this year's SciGirls Summer Camps, we're starting a new camp, one just for coding. It helps encourage girls interested in the STEM fields to learn more about computer science. Here's more.
You've heard of WFSU's SciGirls Summer Camps. Now check out the SciGirls Coding Camp. For 1 week, rising 6th to 9th grade girls explore the world of computer science. They'll meet with engineers, do extensive group work, and interact with girls with similar interests. It's all part of WFSU and the Mag Lab's efforts to inspire girls to pursue careers in science. Applications are due soon, so go to wfsu.org/SciGirls to learn more.
The sounds of nature you find in the Apalachicola National Forest is pretty incredible. But right now, we're going to head back to the studio for a different kind of music. On Facebook, they describe themselves as a trio of swooning, crooning ladies from Tallahassee. They're also known as the music group The Adventures of Annabelle Lynn. Here they are performing their song, Rest for a While.
Seems I've treaded water for a lifetime and nearly a day. And each time I come up for air, she floats farther away. The waves that found me surround me and pulling me down. Oh, olive branch dove, don't you wait till you find me drowned. Rest for a while, rest for a while, rest for a while, rest for a while. It's your face I see in every vision and every dream. It's your hand I reach for when the waters come rushing again. If I could just breathe your sweet breath in, though the ocean she holds me alive will keep me till then. Rest for a while, rest for a while, rest for a while, rest for a while. And I don't know which way to turn, and I don't know which way to go. And if ever again I see you smile, I'll rest for a while, I'll rest for a while. It's your face I see in every vision, every dream. It's your hand I reach for when the waters come rushing again. And if I could just breathe your sweet breath in, though the ocean she holds me, a light will keep me till then. Rest for a while, 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 rest for a while.
Last week, WFSU Public Media premiered the new documentary, The Great Florida Cattle Drive, Unbroken Circles. If you missed it and you're a WFSU Passport member, you can watch online now through March 11th. Passport is a benefit for WFSU donors with a yearly contribution of $60 or more, or an ongoing monthly contribution of $5 or more. Head to WFSU.org to learn more. Thank you for joining us for this week's Local Roots. I'm Suzanne Smith in the Apalachicola National Forest. For everyone at WFSU Public Media, thanks for watching. Have a great week, everybody.
Gulf winds blow through canopy roads all the way to Thomasville. The native names written on the land echo through the red clay hills, where the scent of longleaf Florida pine reach up on past that Georgia line. Stroll through Tallahassee town or southern Appalachia bound. Take the local routes and journey down the roads we call our home. Take the local routes and journey down the roads we call our home.
Production support for Local Roots provided by